Hello everyone and welcome to the Head Teacher's Desk. As a head teacher, you can have the best plans, the best curriculums and the best policies, but they won't have any impact without trust and teamwork. I spoke about the idea of building trust with your team in your first 90 days or your first term as a new head in my previous video. So today, I want to share with you the 3 key principles for how you can build trust and build relationships with your team. So let's dive in. So the first key principle is to value human connections. I think in the world of leadership and education, we are surrounded by theories, and over time, there's a danger of us forgetting what is really at the foundation of it all when it comes to building trust and relationship. And that is human connection. Because let's take my hat off as a head teacher. Let's take my school leader hat off. Let's remove all my roles and titles and just think about me as a person. So when you are interacting with your new staff, you've got to be, first and foremost, a human, a person, talking and getting to know another person. So it's really important that you take the time to build up that human connection with your team. You want to know who they are as individuals, as people. You want to know what's really valuable, what they're really valuing, what's important to them, and what's motivating to them, and what's not. So you need to make sure that you connect, you take the time to connect with your team members on a human to human level. Okay, so something I've learned in my coaching training is to be interested and not interesting. So be interested in what your speaker, the person in front of you, is saying, rather than trying to portray yourself as such an interesting character. So when we are interested in hearing about the other person, you will develop that connection. When you are interested, when you have a genuine interest to get to know them as an individual, that is where connection is going to form. So don't disregard that human connection, and let's not get lost in the jungle of leadership theories, and let's get back to basics of being a human being. Another person getting to know another person. That's it. Simple as that. Okay? So how else can you build that human connection? And this is where, you need to practice active listening. So this is, something that I've developed through, my coaching training, but also through mindfulness and meditation. So practice active listening. Am I an expert? No. Have I mastered it? No. But actually, I have gained more awareness of when I am actively listening to somebody and when I am just listening to know and to plan what I'm going to say next. So let's take a moment and think about your own experience, okay? How many of you, and I'll put my hand up first because I do this all the time, so I'll put my hand up first, okay, to own this, all right? But how many of us, how often do we talk to somebody and we're in a conversation with somebody and we're listening and we think we're listening, but actually in our mind, all we're doing is plan on what we're going to say next, planning on what we are going to respond with, or how we're going to counter argue what they are saying. So what I'm saying to you is just drop it. Just drop all that planning and thinking in your mind and just simply listen. Hear their words. Hear and feel their emotions and their feelings. And then you will know what to say if you are actively listening to them when you're interacting with them. Okay? So that's the first principle. Value human connections. And that is how you're going to build trust and relationship with your team. The next principle, be consistent. If you say you're going to do something, well, make sure that you follow up on that and make sure you keep your word. Even if that is, no, I can't do that right now, or no, that's not possible now, but I'll bear that in mind in the future. Okay, your team need you to be consistent. So one way to show consistency or to build consistency is to make sure that if you're saying you're doing something, you always follow through. Or if when they reach out to you, you always respond back with either yes or no, I can't do that right now. But radio silence as a leader does not build that consistency. Okay. And why is consistency important? Well, consistency builds your credibility as a leader. Okay, your team knows that with you, they can rely on you. They can count on you. Okay, and that's what consistency helped to develop. That trust. Okay, they know exactly what to expect from you. Okay, so as a school leader, I know when I have consistency is when I hear my staff talking with each other when they're discussing an issue that they are trying to tackle or to solve, and they would say things like, well, Amy would say this, or this is not going to work with Amy, or oh, this is not the approach that Amy will take. So when I hear those conversations happening within my team, I know that is when I have consistency built in. Okay, so you have to be consistent with your response, with your approach, with your principles. And in every single situation, your team knows exactly where your values are. They know exactly what's important to you and how you would approach each situation. So build consistency. Okay. And the other thing that I think we don't think about when we think of consistency, okay, yes, it is true that consistency builds credibility, but actually a consistent leader also provides that safety, that psychological safety for your team. So imagine you put yourself in that situation when you work with a leader, when you work with a boss, that you know exactly where you stand, you know exactly where their values are, you know exactly their approach, what their approaches are for every single situation. How would you feel versus being in a situation where you have to guess what their response would be, or where you have to, tiptoe on eggshell in fear of how they might respond or how they might react, when you don't know what the parameters are. Okay, in which situation would you feel safer? So don't forget, your consistency not only builds your credibility, but also provides your team that psychological safety they need in order to perform. Okay, right, the third principle. Now, I hear this a lot in teaching and learning. Growth mindset. What's that all about? Okay. And, you know, at the core of it is the ability to appreciate mistakes, the ability to see the value in mistakes as lessons. Okay. Now, we preach that to the children, don't we? In all lessons, in all organizations, okay, we preach those things. We want our children to have a growth mindset. We want our children to value mistakes. We want to celebrate when things don't go as planned, and reflect on that and as lessons learned. But how often or how genuinely do we do that as adults? So the key principle, the final principle, is to own your mistakes as a leader. To own your mistakes with humility, to own your mistakes with dignity and integrity. When you make a mistake, of course, I'm not saying, you know, to run around your organization and say, I'm sorry, I've made a mistake. No, I'm not talking about that. But actually, as a leader, it is really important that you demonstrate to your staff it is okay to make a mistake, as long as we learn from the mistake and we think and reflect on what we're going to do differently in the future. Unless you have got that growth mindset culture, unless you have got that environment where, starting with you own your mistakes, you own your mistakes with transparency and dignity and integrity, you can't expect your team to be able to do the same. You can't expect your team to come to you and actually, you know, openly admit that they've made a mistake, they need more support, they need more training. You're going to develop a culture where mistakes are hidden, and actually, you know, support is then viewed as a form of performance management to move people on. Actually, you need to change that. You need to change that culture in your school, starting with you. And, you know, I do that all the time as a leader. Does it make me weak? I don't think so. Does it make me vulnerable? Yes. Vulnerability can be a good thing when it comes to building relationships and trust with your team. So I would advise that you think about how you're going to demonstrate that growth mindset in your organization by owning your mistakes, by sharing your reflection, and by developing and encouraging your team to do the same. Because then you will find that that way of thinking is going to be cascaded down further to influence the way your children, your students approach mistakes as well in their learning. Okay, so to recap, trust isn't built overnight. Okay, it takes consistent effort day in, day out to build trust within a team, especially as a new head. Okay, but you've got to remember the 3 key principles I've shared with you today. All right, so the first one, human connection. Let's just talk to your staff like a person, like a human being. Okay, let's just establish that human connection. Let's get to know them as people. Okay, number 2, be consistent. Build that consistency. Okay, because consistency, not only it does give you credibility, but it also it helps your staff to feel safe. Okay, and if staff feel safe, They feel that they belong there. They feel that, they're going to be able to perform and do their best, okay? And then own your mistakes, having that growth mindset, all right? Okay, so that is all for this video. If you like the content, please click like and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications so that you don't miss a tip from the Head Teacher's Desk. And if you like the video, please share with other school leaders. Please repost on LinkedIn and various other social media networks that you are involved with. I would really appreciate your support. And please comment below if you have got further strategies to building trust and relationships with your team, or if you've got a personal story to share with us as well. All right, bye for now.